Ben Simmons was supposed to be a sure thing. Not a maybe, not a project, not a risk that needed patience. He was supposed to be inevitable. A 6'10" point guard with rare court vision, elite defensive instincts, and the kind of physical profile front offices build entire franchises around. From the outside, his path looked almost unfair, too smooth, too perfect, too carefully designed to fail. Rookie of the Year, multiple All-Star selections, a massive contract before most players truly understand the psychological cost of the league. For a brief moment, Ben Simmons didn't just look like the future of basketball. He looked like proof that the future had already arrived. But what most fans still struggle to accept is this: his career didn't unravel because the NBA exposed his weaknesses, and it didn't collapse because he suddenly forgot how to play. It unraveled because pressure, expectation, and identity slowly collided in public until the weight became impossible to carry. Simmons was born in Melbourne, Australia, into a household where basketball wasn't an afterthought. It was part of the rhythm of life. His father had played professionally, and the game was always present, spoken about, practiced, respected. From a young age, Ben stood out not just for his size, but for how naturally he moved, how easily he read the floor, how comfortable he was with the ball in his hands. He wasn't locked into basketball early. He played other sports. He explored different paths. But eventually, the pull of the game became undeniable. Basketball wasn't just what he was best at. It became the identity he chose to build his life around. And that choice came with consequences, because committing to basketball at that level didn't just mean more hours in the gym. It meant uprooting his life, leaving Australia, and stepping directly into the American sports ecosystem, a system that accelerates talent, amplifies expectation, and rarely slows down for emotional development. When Simmons arrived in the United States and enrolled at Montverde Academy, his rise wasn't gradual, it was immediate and overwhelming. He wasn't simply outperforming opponents, he was redefining what his position could look like. A player his size wasn't supposed to handle the ball like that, wasn't supposed to control games with passing and defensive versatility. Scouts didn't argue about whether he would make the NBA, they argued about how dominant he could become once he got there. The language around him became absolute, can't miss, once in a generation, built in a lab. With every championship run and every award, the expectations hardened into something permanent. And that's the part few young players understand early enough. When the basketball world decides who you are before you fully figured it out yourself, development turns into performance, growth turns into proof. Every game becomes a referendum on the future people have already assigned to you. That pressure followed Simmons to LSU. From the moment he stepped on campus, he wasn't treated like a freshman learning the college game. He was treated like an NBA player temporarily passing through. On the court, he delivered. He filled stat sheets, dominated possessions, and played with a confidence that separated him from most of his peers. But the season didn't end the way the story was supposed to. LSU failed to qualify for the NCAA tournament, and in American basketball culture, that failure matters more than raw numbers. Winning, especially in March, is how legacies begin. When that moment never came, it left an uncomfortable gap between talent and result. Simmons didn't wait around to repair the narrative. After one season, he declared for the NBA draft. 1 year of college, one decisive step forward. The next chapter was already calling. In 2016, the Philadelphia 76ers selected Ben Simmons with the first overall pick. And being the #1 pick isn't just an honor, it's a burden. It means you are no longer a piece, you are the plan. The player everything revolves around. The player expected to justify years of rebuilding and patience. But before Simmons could take his first real step into that role, his career stalled. A right foot injury ended his entire rookie season before it ever began. While other young players learned through mistakes and adjustment, Simmons learned through isolation, watching games, rehabbing, hearing speculation build in the background. In the NBA, absence rarely creates sympathy, it creates doubt. And the longer a player stays out of sight, the easier it becomes for narratives to grow unchecked. When Simmons finally debuted, it felt like an answer to every question. He didn't look rusty, he didn't look overwhelmed, he looked in control. He won Rookie of the Year, he became an all-star. He introduced a style of play that challenged traditional ideas of what a star had to be. He wasn't a volume scorer, but he controlled tempo. He wasn't a shooter, but he bent defenses with size and vision. Philadelphia didn't see a flaw, they saw a foundation. The league didn't see a limitation, it saw evolution. For a while, the story felt finished. The promise had been fulfilled, the future was secure. But the NBA has a way of stripping stories down to their harshest test, the playoffs. And in 2021, that test exposed something deeper than skill. Game after game, the pressure intensified. Free throws became mental battles, possessions felt heavier, and slowly the conversation around Ben Simmons shifted. It stopped being about defense and playmaking. It became about hesitation, about confidence, about whether fear had entered the equation. His struggles at the free throw line reached historic levels. Criticism followed him everywhere. And then came the moment that froze the narrative in place. An open lane to the basket, a clear opportunity to dunk.
and a split-second decision to pass. One play out of thousands, but one that landed like a confession under playoff lights. The aftermath was immediate and public. A teammate pointed to that play as a turning point in the series. The head coach, asked whether Simmons could be the point guard on a championship team, couldn't give a definitive answer. And in a league where perception often becomes reality, that hesitation mattered. What had once been trust turned into doubt. What had once been partnership turned into fracture. The relationship between Simmons and Philadelphia didn't quietly fade. It broke in full view of the league. What followed was one of the most polarizing standoffs in modern NBA history. Simmons didn't simply request a trade, he stayed away. Training camp came and went, preseason passed, games were played without him, and the fines began to accumulate. Millions of dollars disappeared as the conflict escalated. Eventually, Simmons cited mental health struggles, and the conversation expanded beyond basketball. Now fans, analysts, and former players weren't just debating performance, they were debating responsibility, empathy, and the limits of professional obligation. Philadelphia wanted him present, Simmons wanted distance, and the longer it dragged on, the more impossible it became to resolve quietly. Eventually, the league did what it always does when a situation becomes unsustainable. It moved him. Simmons was traded to the Brooklyn Nets in a blockbuster deal that promised a fresh start. On paper, it looked ideal. A new city, a new roster, a chance to rebuild away from the noise. But reality didn't cooperate. Injuries returned, back issues lingered, surgery entered the picture, debuts were delayed, and when Simmons finally saw the floor, the flashes of his old self were there, but they were brief. His minutes decreased, his production declined. Availability became the defining metric. The player once viewed as a franchise cornerstone now felt stuck between recovery and expectation. Then came the statistic that shocked even casual observers. Over multiple seasons, Brooklyn paid Simmons an enormous sum of money for a relatively small number of games played. That number became a symbol, not just of frustration, but of disbelief. Yet reducing his story to dollars alone misses the complexity. This was never just about effort or desire. It was about a collision between talent and relentless expectation, between physical setbacks and psychological weight, inside a league that never pauses for recovery. In February 2025, the Nets bought out his contract. Another chapter ended not with celebration, but with quiet finality. Days later, Simmons signed with the Los Angeles Clippers. The move itself spoke volumes. A smaller role, lower expectations, less pressure to carry an identity he never asked for, a chance to exist in the league without being defined by the past. And maybe that's the most revealing part of his journey. The NBA didn't take Ben Simmons' talent away. It placed him under a microscope before he was ready, then asked him to perform while questioning his confidence in real time. Some players break records, some players break defenses. Ben Simmons became a reminder that in professional sports, the most dangerous opponent isn't always physical. So the real question isn't just what happened to Ben Simmons. The real question is how many players are one moment away from the same collapse, but simply haven't had it happen under the brightest lights yet.